FM. We're also streaming from that SuperTalk Mississippi app and your local SuperTalk Mississippi radio station. And don't forget about watching us. We are on your computer or your mobile device. Just head on over to SuperTalk TV. Now, the Mississippi chapter of the Nature Conservancy has got a new state director. He has been named, and he's joining us today, Mr. Scott Lemmons, and they are up to some good things. So welcome, Scott.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
And
today.
I got it right off the first try. Nature Conservancy. Why is that such a hard word to say, Scott?
I don't know, but for some reason, a lot of people have trouble with that.
But not you and everybody at y'all's great place doing good work. So when people hear about what you do or where you work, how do you sort of describe the good work that you guys do on a daily basis?
Basically, I tell them that we work to restore, enhance, and protect resilient landscapes across the world. We have chapters or business units in all 50 states here in the U.S., and we're working in 78 countries globally right now.
So when it says the Mississippi chapter, you guys are just a smaller sector of something so much larger?
Correct.
And I would assume that the work that you guys are doing, obviously it's hyper-focused here locally in terms of our state, but it's also part of a greater plan when it comes to conserving our...
Yeah, the Nature Conservancy, we look at it as implementing conservation on a global scale, and then you can look at it from the North American scale and down to the business unit.
And then here in Mississippi, y'all look at is the business unit. So tell us about some of the cool things that you have done. I know you just finished a floodplain reconnection project. Sounds cool. Have no idea what that means.
So we had the opportunity to reconnect a 6,000-acre property back to the Mississippi River a couple of years ago down in Wilkinson County. So my former position was director of freshwater programs, so I focused on freshwater ecosystems. So along the Mississippi River, the river's been bound by the levee system for going on 80, close to 100 years now, and the river, when it hits flood stage, a normal process is for the river to overflow its banks and utilize its floodplain. Well, we don't have that opportunity as much anymore because of the way the levee systems are designed, which we have to have the levees for flood to maintain for flood control purposes. But one particular landowner reached out to me, this goes back to 2016, and said, hey, I don't have the ability to manage water levels on my property. What can we do? So after reaching out to, I think I had 15 partners involved by the time we pulled this project off. But basically what we did, this property was a river island in between Lake Mary and the Mississippi River, and it was surrounded by a big ring levee. And that levee during high water, the private levee was much lower than the Corps of Engineers levee. So one, they couldn't control water levels within the property, and two, when they reached major flood stage, those levees would overtop, and all of the wildlife within the property would have many miles to swim, to reach higher ground. So we went in and we excavated a section of that levee, and we put in a very large-scale water control structure to allow water to flow from the Mississippi River into the property. And during large-scale flood events, that basically notifies your wildlife, hey, the water's coming up, we need to seek higher ground. But in addition to that, it provided many, many conservation benefits for the property. One, fish were allowed to pass from the Mississippi River into the floodplain on Loch Leven, and it provides shallow water spawning habitat for many freshwater fish in the Lower Mississippi River. The first year after we implemented the project, we found 28 species of fish that were spawning within Loch Leven. And in addition, we provided water management capabilities within the property for waterfowl, wading bird habitat, so conservation benefits are endless. It provided seasonal flooding to bottomland hardwood forest, as well as improving water quality in the Lower Mississippi River system. So when water spreads out and it flows across the floodplain, the flow of the water slows down, and then sediment falls out of the water column and is deposited on the floodplain. So when the river recedes, you have a much cleaner water that's flowing back into the Mississippi River system because sediment nutrients have fallen out.
So many good things.
Learning
a lot about a floodplain today. But I also know this took you 8 years. This was not like an overnight kind of project. You mentioned too, Scott, 15 different partners came through. So this was a thought-out, meticulous sort of bringing all hands on deck. How did you utilize all the partners? How did you even wrap your head around how all this could eventually work out?
The first time I visited the property, I said, okay, I have no idea how I'm going to pull this off, but I've got to do this because it's the largest floodplain reconnection project south of Cairo, Illinois, on the main stem of the Mississippi River. I said, I've got to find a way to do this. So you start with the fundraising process, and you write grants, you reach out to partners, private, state, federal funding opportunities, private funding opportunities, and then reaching out to partners to help you achieve the goals that you're working towards. I had many private companies. We had to bring the heavy equipment just due to the remoteness of the project site. We had to bring heavy equipment in by river barge. So I had assistance from some of the river transportation companies. We had assistance from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Army Corps of Engineers, many private foundations. It just took a lot of effort from both fundraising and in-kind support to be able to bring the project to completion.
Was it easy to convince them that this was the right thing to do, but then a good thing to do too, now that you have this technology and know how to? Is it replicable?
Yes, it absolutely is, and we're working with our science team right now to answer many of those questions. One, how many of these projects do we need to replicate both up within the upper Mississippi River system and the lower Mississippi River system to improve water quality as it flows into the Gulf of Mexico, to help reduce the effects of Gulf hypoxia, and to help reduce the effects of major flood events by providing these opportunities to put water on the landscape.
You say reduce flood events, and I think folks are like, yes, sign me up.
Absolutely.
I think that would be the first one. But then you don't think about the other things that impact you. I mean, we all appreciate the things that we get from our Mississippi Gulf Coast or just in terms of seafood. I would assume that having fresher water or better water is just good for everybody.
It's good for everybody. The conservation that we're doing in the Mississippi Delta directly affects the Gulf Coast because we're improving water quality that's flowing directly into the Gulf of Mexico.
So what's next, Scott?
We're focusing on three areas. One, our freshwater program, our forest program, and our coastal and marine program. So within the freshwater program, we're looking at additional projects such as Loch Leven to implement along the main stem of the Mississippi River. We're doing bottomland hardwood reforestation easements on working agricultural lands in the Delta, restoring, enhancing, and protecting wetlands within the Mississippi River and Yazoo River Basin. Our forest program, we're working to reduce carbon emissions through bottomland hardwood reforestation practices, as well as restoring habitats to native longleaf and shortleaf pine ecosystems. And we're working along the Gulf Coast to continue to restore coastal and marine habitats. We just implemented a 43-acre oyster reef project in Bay St. Louis.
Which is super cool, too. I think we had them here on Good Things, and they're recycling the oyster shells and doing all the cool things with that. And I think it's neat to know that all this is going on, Scott, while we're going about our day. I mean, we know that our land and our resources, they're invaluable and they need to be conserved. But then sometimes we feel like, wow, that's a really big job for what can I do for that? Can the everyday Mississippian, help in any of this? I don't feel like I can help with the floodplain part and all the science, but do we have a part to play in helping you guys reach y'all's goals?
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone can be a conservationist in some form or another, and we work with partners, we work with private foundations, we do a lot of grant writing, and we work with trustees and donors. If someone has an interest in conservation and they would like to invest in conservation, we have that opportunity for them to do so, and we can provide many different avenues as far as whatever that individual would be interested in the type of conservation that they'd want to invest in.
I would assume with the talking about the floodplain, that was a person who had private property, right? And they were helping with that. So if you have large land, is that something you should be thinking about, is how you can conserve what you have or get the best use out of your land that would help the ecosystem at large?
Absolutely. And the particular landowner that reached out to me, that was their first question. We don't really know the best use of the land, but we want to do something good for conservation. So, they invited the Nature Conservancy and several of our partners down there, and we just kind of developed a project, and that grew into a project that we're looking to replicate on a 32 state, basin
That's
approach, within the Mississippi River system. But
Well, Scott, hang on there. We've got more with Scott, your new Nature Conservancy State Director, coming up next. We're also streaming from that SuperTalk Mississippi app and your local SuperTalk Mississippi radio station. Don't forget about watching us, though, on SuperTalk TV, where you can find us on your computer or your mobile device. You can find Middays with Gerard Gibert and Sports Talk Mississippi. They're going to be live in Starkville coming up on Friday as they talk about all the incredible things happening in Starkville, so Mississippi's college town. So you'll want to stay tuned in for that. But we are continuing our conversation with the Mississippi chapter of the Nature Conservancy. Got a new state director, it's Scott Lemmons, and he's joining us and talking about all the good things that they are doing and have done. But Scott, I was looking at your bio they sent over to me, and I see you got your start in forestry, which I think is pretty cool. Is that still Mississippi's #1 agricultural industry, or it's right up there at the top?
It's right up there at the top.
It's right up there at the top. So how did a guy in forestry find himself over here doing state-of-the-art, I guess, doing with floodplains and water and freshwater and all the things else? Or does it all kind of go together and you just don't think about it?
It all kind of ties together, whether you're in forestry, wildlife management, conservation. I started out one direction working for USDA, and I did that for 10 years, and then I found out about this position at the Nature Conservancy, and, I was just very fortunate to have had a very diverse background with a combination of forest management, wildlife management, and eventually just being directed towards the conservation field.
Because really the management of it all, which so many do, that is in and itself is a form of conservancy, correct?
Absolutely.
You're just looking at it from a couple of different angles.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you find yourself, Scott, wanting to do that in terms of profession? You have lots of outdoorsmen listening. We even got little kiddos who are being picked up from the car rider line who maybe enjoy hunting, fishing, and all that. But you found a way to make a pretty good varied career out of your love of the outdoors.
Absolutely. Once I realized that, hey, there's absolutely opportunities to make a living doing the things that I love and that I enjoy. I grew up, fishing on the Mississippi River, hunting all of the above, and I found out about the College of Forest Resources program at Mississippi State, and one college visit later, I said, okay, this is all I need to see. It's something that I want to pursue, and I've been very fortunate ever since then. I started working for the Department of Agriculture actually my junior year, so I had 1 year with USDA under my belt before I graduated, and it was just a great opportunity, and that kind of prepared me for the position I moved into as Director of Freshwater Programs at the Nature Conservancy, and 10 years of an additional 10 years of experience later, here we are.
Here we are as the state director. How does it feel to fill in those shoes? I think it's been over a year since we've gone without an official director, or I may be wrong in that, but how does it feel moving into this role?
It feels, I'm very comfortable within this position, and I can say that because ever since January, I served as our interim deputy state director. So it's just another day in the office. Not a lot of things have changed. It's we stay very busy, and we're very fortunate to have the opportunities that we have in Mississippi, and very diverse opportunities as compared to other states. We've got the Gulf Coast, we've got the Mississippi River, the Delta, the Longleaf Pine Belt, the hills in the northeastern part of the state, and each region is unique and has its own unique habitats within itself.
I was thinking, you were mentioning earlier what you guys do in the Delta in terms of what the floodplains really matters to, the quality of water and everything into the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And that is unique here in Mississippi. And even though, when you say you're from Mississippi, then you automatically, Scott, you go to, well, I'm from the Delta, or I'm from Central Mississippi, or I'm from, or the coast will say, oh, no, I'm from the coast, because we're all so different. But yet it reminds us, particularly when it comes to our natural resources, they all affect each other. And you can't have the quality of one without the quality of the other. So helping people understand that our Gulf Coast matters for the land, which matters for the fresh water and the trees, and you see it as all one big ecosystem.
Absolutely. You can divide it out however you want to. You manage each individually, but the way I put it is the work that I'm doing in Belzona matters in Biloxi. Right. Water quality improvements in the Delta make a difference in the Lower Mississippi River system, which reduce the hypoxic zone in the Gulf of Mexico and improve our Gulf Coast. So to look at it from a big picture, we're just working to conserve the resilient landscapes that we have.
Going back to the landowner who called you for the cool floodplain project, which now will impact, as you mentioned, like 30-something states. Like, how cool is that? Is that something landowners can call the Conservancy for? Like, if they've got, I don't even know what's considered significant acreage to you guys. I'm thinking hundreds or thousands of acres. I'm sure some people have. And they don't know how to best conserve it or how best to utilize it. Is that a resource? Like, are you guys a resource for them for that?
Absolutely, and we'll entertain any avenue. I'll be glad to talk to any landowner, as well as each of our conservation directors will be happy to do the same. And we just kind of take it on a case-by-case basis.
In that way. Well, that would be something I think people should know, that that's a resource out there. If you've got, like, especially the trees or asking or knowing what to do, we're coming into the hunting season. I know that's not necessarily your area in that way. But I think we all want to be smart with our land and our resources and learning more about what we can do for that, and that there's some innovative ways that we can do it. How cool is it to take what you guys accomplished with the floodplain and now being able to go into other states and be like, we did it. We did it first.
It's a really good feeling, and I do a lot of work with our Mississippi River Basin program, and we look at it from a 32-state basin approach, conservation on the Mississippi River, and to be able to take a project like that and get sound scientific data. Like right now we are monitoring water quality, water flowing in to Loch Leven, water flowing out of Loch Leven. We've got fisheries data, and our science team is working to answer the question, how many of these do we need to replicate to improve conditions, water quality, and reduce flood risk on the Mississippi River.
Is there a project that you would like to do, Scott, but maybe just yet hadn't landed that right grant or partner or funding?
We have multiple projects, and each one of our programs could speak to that. We have opportunities within a freshwater program. We've got opportunities down south in the longleaf pine belt for our forest program, and we've got opportunities for our coastal and marine program. We just kind of take them as we can raise funding and to ensure that each individual project meets our 2030 goals that we're working to from a North American regional standpoint and a global standpoint.
As a weighty question, can all of our, problems be solved with ingenuity in terms of thinking, kind of like with the floodplains, like when it comes to conserving and humans and our nature all living in harmony together? Can we figure that out, Scott, over the long haul?
We're doing our best to answer that question.
That's a good answer.
The best answer I can give you is we spend every day of our lives working to conserve the land, the air, the water that supports all life on this planet. And the larger impact that we can have, the more acres we can conserve, the more trees we can plant, the more river miles we can reconnect and restore. It makes a difference.
River miles restored. What is that? What did you explain that to me?
Okay, so a lot of times quantifying water volumes. For Loch Leven, for instance, you're looking at billions and billions of gallons of water that we put on the landscape. There's no way that we can quantify that numerically, so we look at it as how many acre feet of water, what's the flood storage capacity that this project can hold. So the answer for that is on Loch Leven is, I got 6,000 acres that I can flood 12 feet deep during an extreme flood event. So you're looking at 72,000 acre feet of flood storage capacity. That's 1 acre flooded a foot deep. So if you can go 12 feet, it works out to...
I'm impressed with your math skills on the spot.
72,000 acre feet. So when I refer to river miles restored, we work with partners. We work with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Army Corps of Engineers, and the Lower Mississippi River Conservation Committee to do side channel reconnection projects on the Lower Mississippi River. And by side channels, I'm referring to the secondary channels that stem from the main stem of the Mississippi River. And during low water events, a lot of times from sand or either the water control structures within the river that are built to divert the flow to the center of the channel. During low water events, a lot of these secondary channels get cut off. And when there's no flow going into these secondary channels, these side channels, then you get fish kills, the water turns over, and it's just
good.
bad for the habitat altogether. So in our partnership with the Fish and Wildlife Service and the Corps, we're going in and we're opening up these secondary channels to allow flow of fresh water through those all 12 months of the year during low water events like we have right now. And that's what I refer to as conserving number of river miles conserved. How many miles of secondary channel do we restore flow and habitat
So many
to?
good things. Scott, learned a lot from you today. Congratulations on your new position and all that's going on there at the Nature Conservancy. If we want more information about what you guys are doing or support you, where do we go?
You can look at our website, www.nature.org, and just /Mississippi, and you can also reach out to our main office as well.
All right, pretty cool. Thank you for your time. You guys stick with us. We got more good for you coming up.